The stars outside the window of the Terran diplomatic ship looked cold and distant. Captain Elias Ward stood alone at the edge of the main deck, his hands resting on the smooth railing as the stars shifted slowly. This mission had lasted 6 long months. 6 months of tense talks, formal dinners, strange customs, and quiet threats wrapped in polite language. But now it was finally over, at least. That was what he thought. The Vraxan Dominion had agreed to a fragile peace. A written treaty? A promise of no more border raids, no more silent fleets lurking in the dark between systems. For the first time in years, Elias allowed himself to exhale. His bags were packed. His return to Earth was scheduled. The jump engines would activate at dawn. Everything was planned. Everything was in control, but in deep space, plans rarely held. A soft beep echoed through the deck. Elias turned and saw Lieutenant Kara Holt, his communications officer, hurrying toward him. Her face was pale, her voice tight. "Sir, we just received a direct call from the Vraxan Royal Chamber," Elias frowned. "At this hour, we already said our farewells." Kara swallowed. "It's from the Queen herself. She's asking for you. Only you." Elias stared at her. The Vraxan Queen had spoken to him exactly twice in 6 months, and both times it was through translators, behind shimmering silk veils, her voice layered with alien echoes. A direct request like this was not just unusual. It was unheard of. "I'll be there in 5, he said. The Royal Chamber was inside the Vraxan flagship, a massive silver structure that floated silently near the human ship. Its design resembled a giant blooming flower made of metal and glass. When Elias boarded the shuttle, the soft humming of engines filled the cabin. His chest tightened as the 2 ships drew closer. He had done this many times, but this felt different. When the airlock opened, he stepped into a corridor lit by pale blue lights. The walls were alive, pulsing softly as if breathing. 2 Vraxan guardstall, insectoid beings with dark chitin, armor greeted him with silent bows. Their antennae twitched as they turned, guiding him deeper into the Queen's chamber. Elias felt the weight of the silence. No translators, no aides. Just him. The chamber itself was breathtaking. A high dome stretched overhead, covered in shimmering crystal vines that glowed faintly like stars frozen in glass. At the center stood the Queen. She was taller than any human, her form draped in flowing, luminous silk that changed colors with each slow movement. Her compound eyes reflected the light like mirrors, and her wings folded against her back shimmered faintly with silver dust. Elias had studied her species. The Queen rarely spoke directly. She ruled through voice circles, advisors, and layered gestures. But now, as the chamber doors closed behind him, she stepped forward. "Human," she said. Elias froze. She was speaking in English. Her accent was strange, stretched, but her words were clear. "Queen Versa," Elias said carefully, bowing his head slightly. "I thought our talks were concluded." The Queen tilted her head, her antennae moving slowly, as if listening to something no one else could hear. "They were," she said. "But the stars have spoken, and I have seen what comes." Her words sent a chill down his spine. He forced himself to stay calm. "May I ask what you've seen?" "The veil," she said. "The storm that eats suns." For a moment, Elias didn't respond. The term veil was not in any treaty, but it was in classified Terran reports, ones he had personally read. A growing wall of radiation beyond the edge of known space, silent, expanding, unstoppable. The scientists called it a cosmic storm. It didn't care about politics, technology, or borders. If it kept moving, it would consume systems in its path, including several Vraxan homeworlds. "How? Do you know about that?" Elias asked. The Queen raised one long, delicate hand. In the air between them, a holographic image appeared, a black wave of energy crawling across star maps. It matched the Terran data almost perfectly. "We have eyes beyond your reach. We have seen it. It comes closer with every cycle." Elias swallowed. "That information is restricted." The Queen stepped closer. Her wings shimmered faintly, a low hum filling the air. "The veil does not respect your restrictions." Ilias's pulse quickened. This was not how tonight was supposed to go. He was supposed to be drinking recycled coffee on the return flight, not listening to alien queens talk about cosmic disasters. "What do you want from me?" he asked quietly. Her eyes locked on his. "You were leaving, yes. Our ships, you cannot leave." The words cut through the chamber like a blade. Elias blinked. "Excuse me." "You cannot leave," she repeated. "Not yet." Two Vraxan attendants appeared silently from the shadows. Their movement was smooth, not threatening, but enough to remind him he was deep inside their territory. Alone, Elias raised his hand slightly. "If this is an attempt to change the treaty, I should remind you it is not politics, human." Her voice softened, almost like a whisper. "It is survival." The Queen moved toward a nearby console. When she touched it, the floor lit up with pale gold lines, drawing a map of the galaxy. The veil spread like a storm cloud across the stars, slowly, unstoppable. But there was one strange line marked in green cutting. "Straight through the storm, our ships cannot pass through the veil," she said. "We have tried. We lose everything, ships, signals, even memories." Elias frowned. "What do you mean?" "Memories?" She turned toward him, her compound eyes reflecting him like 1,000 mirrors. "Our minds are not built for the silence inside the storm. We forget who we are before we die. But your kind is different." Elias blinked. "Different how?" "You walk through storms," she whispered. "You live in chaos. Where others shatter, humans adapt." Elias felt a strange weight settle in his chest. For years, humans had been treated as a young, reckless species. Clever, yes. Dangerous, maybe. But not special. Not the center of anything. The Queen saw his hesitation. "We have studied your history. You lived through darkness. Through cold. Through war. And yet you keep building. You keep walking forward." "It doesn't make us invincible?" he said quietly. "No," she replied. "But it makes you the only ones who can cross." She gestured to the map. The green line pulsed faintly. "This is the path your ships took during your first deep space explorations. The veil will fall on us in 40 cycles. We cannot cross it. But you can." Elias stepped closer to the map. "What are you asking me?" She faced him fully now. "Carry us. Carry what we are." Elias stared at her. "What?" The Queen raised her hand, and one of the attendants brought a small, glowing sphere forward. Inside, silver threads floated like mist. "This," she said, "is a memory seed. It holds the history, language, and soul of my people. If the veil consumes our worlds, this seed will carry us beyond it." "You're asking me to? Save your civilization." The Queen's antennae lowered. "Yes." Elias shook his head slowly. "I can't make that decision alone. The Union does not see what I see." Her voice was soft, but every word was heavy. "If you leave without this, we will be lost." For a moment, the chamber was silent, except for the faint hum of energy flowing through the walls. Elias stared at the glowing seed, at the map, at the Queen who had once threatened war over mining rights. Now she stood before him, asking, not commanding, not demanding, but asking. "Why me?" he whispered. The Queen tilted her head slightly. "Because you stayed when others would have run. You listened. You see?" Elias almost laughed at that. He was just a messenger. A diplomat with a tired voice and a habit of overthinking everything. But in this moment, the weight of 2 civilizations sat on his shoulders. "I need to talk to my people," he said finally. "You will," she replied. "But know this," Elias warned. "The veil moves faster than your politics." Elias returned to his ship with the Queen's words still echoing in his mind. Kara was waiting for him at the airlock, eyes wide. "What happened in there?" she whispered. Elias didn't answer right away. He walked past her into the main operations room. The night crew straightened as he entered. Screens flickered with routine departure checks. Nothing looked out of place, but everything had changed. "Captain." Kara followed him in. "What's wrong?" He stopped in front of the main navigation screen. Slowly, he activated the star map. The storm appeared on the display black and cold. It's crawling through space like a living shadow. Kara's face drained of color. How does she know about that? Elias didn't answer. His gaze was locked on the storm. She asked us not to leave. What? Kara stared at him. That's not an option. We're scheduled to jump in 5 hours. Looked at her. She thinks humanity is the only species that can cross. Kara blinked. That's insane. Maybe, Elias said. Maybe not. She stepped closer. Sir, this isn't our problem. We have our own colonies to think about. Our own people, he wanted to agree. He really did. But something about the way the Queen had spoken, soft but steady, made it impossible to shake off. It wasn't just about her people. If the veil kept growing, it wouldn't stop at their border. It would keep moving. Eventually, it would reach human space too. Run the storm models, he said quietly. Project its course. Kara hesitated. Sir, do it. The holomap expanded. Streams of glowing data stretched across the stars. The veil's trajectory was clear now. It would hit the Vraxan core worlds first. But after that, it would sweep toward the Terran frontier. In less than a century, Earth itself would be in its path. Kara's hands trembled on the console. Oh my God. Elias leaned on the railing, his jaw tight. It's everyone's problem. Called an emergency council with the senior officers. Commander Rios, the tactical officer, was the first to speak. With all due respect, sir, we're diplomats. We're not equipped to save another civilization. Dr. Lee, their cultural expert, leaned forward. But if what the Queen says is true, this could be the beginning of something bigger than diplomacy. A migration. An alliance, Rios scoffed. Or a disaster. Elias listened to them argue, his mind turning. The Queen's glowing seed flashed in his memory. Curious, he cleared his throat. The room fell silent. We're not deciding the fate of their people, he said slowly. But we may be deciding the future of everyone, including us. Later, alone in his quarters, Elias opened the small case that held the Vraxan seed. It floated gently, glowing softly, as if alive. Humans were not gods. They weren't saviors. They were just stubborn creatures who refused to give up. Maybe that was exactly what made them different. He closed the case. Outside, the stars kept moving. A message from the Queen appeared on his screen. Just one line. When the storm comes, remember your kind walks where others cannot. Elias didn't sleep that night. The veil was coming. The Queen was waiting. And in 5 hours, his ship would either leave or stay. For the first time in his career, Elias Ward realized that the decision he made next might shape the history of more than just humanity. It might shape the future of two civilizations standing on the edge of a storm, and somewhere deep inside, a single thought burned brighter than fear. Humans walk through storms. Captain Elias Ward sat in his chair on the bridge, watching the countdown clock on the main screen. For hours until the Terran ship jumped away from the Vraxan system and headed back to human space. Everything was prepared, engines fueled, coordinates locked, crew on standby. But in Ilias's chest, a storm was building. He had spent the last hour staring at the small case on the console. Beside him, the glowing Vraxan memory seed. It looked fragile, like a floating star captured in glass. Yet it carried the weight of an entire civilization. A history that stretched thousands of years before humans learned to leave their planet. He rubbed his forehead. The decision was tearing him apart. Lieutenant Kara Holt entered the bridge quietly. She looked tired, her dark hair pulled back messily, a half-finished cup of coffee in her hand. She stopped beside him. "Sir," she said softly, "the Queen has sent another message." Elias didn't look up. "Let me guess. Another warning about the veil." Kara shook her head. "No, she wants to meet you. One last time." He leaned back slowly. His stomach twisted. Every time the Queen spoke, the ground beneath his decisions seemed to shift. "Where?" "She's waiting in the diplomacy chamber on our ship," Kara said. She came alone. It made Elias freeze. The Queen had never left her flagship before. Her kind rarely stepped onto foreign ships. This wasn't a political move anymore. This was personal. "Bring her in," he said. When the doors to the chamber opened, Elias saw the queen for the first time outside her court. Her luminous silk robes shimmered under the Terran lights. She moved slowly, with a kind of grace that silenced the room. Even the security guards at the door lowered their eyes. The queen's antennae shifted gently as she looked around the chamber. She stood taller than anyone else in the room, but she didn't look threatening. She looked calm, determined. "Human," she said in her soft, echoed voice. "I thank you for allowing me to enter your ship." Elias stood to face her. "It's an honor, Your Majesty. But I assume this isn't just a visit." She tilted her head, studying him as if reading his heartbeat. "No, it is not." The queen stepped closer. "I have watched many species rise and fall. I have seen empires build walls against the dark, only to be swept away like dust. But your kind." She paused, her antennae twitching. "Your kind refuses to stay behind walls." Elias frowned slightly. "You think that's strength?" "It is more than strength," she replied. "It is direction. You do not look to the past. You keep moving forward," he sighed. "We move forward because we don't know how to stop." The queen's compound eyes shimmered. "That is exactly why we need you." Elias placed his hands on the table. "You're asking me to carry your memory seed across the veil, but it's not just a matter of wanting to. My superiors won't approve a mission like this without authorization. They'll see it as a risk. They'll say, why help them when we're struggling to save ourselves?" The queen's wings shifted behind her, making a soft rustling sound. "And what will you say?" Her question hit him like a weight. He was a messenger, a negotiator. His job was to deliver orders, not shape history. But now he was being asked to make a choice that could change everything. Elias lowered his eyes. "I don't know." The queen stepped closer, so close he could see the delicate patterns on her silk robes. "I did not come here to command you," she said gently. "I came to ask you, as one living being to another." She lifted one hand and revealed a second seed, smaller, dimmer than the first. "This is not just memory, it is hope. A copy of our songs, our art, our dreams. If we vanish, this will remain." Elias stared at it. It was so small, so quiet, and yet it carried something larger than any ship could hold. The queen's voice softened. "We do not ask to rule. We only ask to travel with you, to live." The room was silent. Even Kara, standing by the door, looked down at the glowing seed with wide eyes. No one had ever heard an alien queen speak like this. Not with power. With plea. Elias felt something shift inside him. 3 hours remained. The crew gathered in the main operations room. The tension was thick. Elias stood at the front, his hands clasped behind his back, the 2 seeds sitting on the table beside him. Commander Rios crossed his arms. "Sir, with all respect, this is beyond our authority. We're diplomats, not carriers for alien archives." Dr. Lee, the cultural specialist, leaned forward. "But this isn't just about archives. This is about preserving a species." Rios shook his head. "If we carry their memory seeds and something happens, if Earth finds out we brought alien data into secure space without clearance, it could start a political storm." Elias listened as the arguments flew across the room like sparks: fear, logic, responsibility. Hope Kara raised her hand quietly. "Sir, may I speak?" Elias nodded. She took a breath. "I know the risks. But we've spent years calling ourselves explorers. We tell stories about who we are. Brave, bold, human. If we walk away from them now, what does that make us?" The room went silent again. Elias met her eyes. There was no bravado in her voice. Just quiet truth. He turned to the others. "This isn't just about the Varaxans. The veil isn't going to stop at their border. In time, it will reach us too. If we do nothing now, we're just waiting for it to knock on our door." Rios clenched his jaw. "You're suggesting we take responsibility for another species?" Elias shook his head slowly. "No, I'm suggesting we act like who we claim to be." He rested a hand on the table beside the glowing seeds. "If humanity has one strength, it's this. We don't just survive. We carry others with us. One by one, the faces around the room shifted. Doubt gave way to thought. Thought gave way to something quieter, something stronger. 2 hours remained. The message from the Terran High Command came in like a cold wind. A stern voice filled the bridge. Captain Ward, you are ordered to depart immediately. Under no circumstances are you to transport foreign artifacts or passengers through the hyperspace corridor. Violation of this order will be considered insubordination and may result in permanent suspension of rank. Kara glanced at Elias. They said no. Elias stared at the screen. He had expected this. But hearing it out loud still stung. Rios folded his arms. Well, that's it then. Elias was quiet. His mind felt like it was spinning and still at the same time. A voice from years ago, his father's, echoed in his head. History doesn't wait for permission. He took a slow breath. Prepare the jump. Rios blinked. So we're leaving? Elias turned his gaze toward the Vraxan flagship floating outside their windows. No, he said softly. We're not. 1 hour remained. The Queen stood on the viewing deck of the Terran ship, looking at the stars. She had no guards, no attendants. Just her tall figure outlined against the dark. Elias approached quietly. You came alone? He said. Yes, she replied. My people already know. They are ready to trust you, or to accept the end. He looked at her. If I do this, it may cost me everything. She didn't look away from the stars. Then you will understand what it means to lead. He let out a tired breath. I'm not a leader. She finally turned to him. History will decide that. 30 minutes. Elias stood before the crew. Command has given us a direct order, he said. But I'm giving you a choice. Anyone who wants to leave can transfer to the support shuttle before we jump. No one moved. Kara stepped forward. Sir, we're with you. Dr. Lee nodded. If the Union wants to punish someone for helping save a civilization, they'll have to punish all of us. Rios sighed, shaking his head with a half-smile. You're going to ruin my career, Captain. Elias looked at him. Yours and mine both. They shared a quiet laugh. It was small, but it cut through the tension like light in fog. 10 minutes. The Queen approached the bridge. She carried the 2 seeds in her silk-covered hands. Elias met her at the center of the room. Our fates are joined now, she said softly. Elias nodded. Then let's walk through the storm. She placed the seeds carefully into a containment chamber. The chamber locked with a soft hiss, lights glowing green. Jump coordinates set, Kara said from her console. Veil entry in teamness 10 minutes. The Queen stepped back, her antennae trembling slightly. Her kind could not survive inside the storm. But she trusted a human ship and a human captain to lead them through. Elias took his seat. Engage primary engines. The ship trembled as power surged through its core. Outside, the veil stretched across the stars like a black ocean. It wasn't a visible wall, more like a shimmering curtain of darkness swallowing starlight. 5 minutes, Kara said. Ilias's hands gripped the armrests. His heartbeat was steady. Fear was still there, but it had turned into something sharper. Focus. The Queen watched silently. Her wings folded tightly. 3 minutes, Kara called. The hum of the ship grew louder. The crew's eyes locked on the forward display. The veil loomed closer, pulsing like a living thing. 30 seconds. Elias took a slow breath. The ship plunged into the veil. Darkness wrapped around them like a blanket. All external signals vanished. Stars disappeared. The navigation lights flickered, but the ship held steady. Reading static interference, Kara said. Her voice trembled, but she didn't stop. Guidance holding. Engine stable. Elias stared at the forward screen. There was nothing. No stars, no sound. Just black. Maintain heading, he ordered. The Queen's eyes were closed. Her kind couldn't survive this darkness, but inside the Terran ship, she was safe. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. Time felt different inside the veil. The crew focused on their tasks like a single beating heart. Then, slowly, light returned. It was faint at first, like a sunrise breaking over an endless ocean. One by one, stars reappeared on the screen. The dark curtain of the veil faded behind them. They were through. Kara let out a shaky laugh. "We did it." Rios clapped his hand on the console. "We actually did it." Lias exhaled for the first time in what felt like an eternity. "Report. All systems stable," Kara said. "No major damage. Navigation locked on safe corridor." The Queen opened her eyes. Her wings unfurled, shimmering like a galaxy in miniature. "You walked through the storm?" she whispered. Elias turned to her. "No, we did." But their mission wasn't over. As they moved through the safe corridor beyond the veil, the Queen projected a map. "There are many who will follow," she said. "Our fleets, our people. They will need a path, a guide." Elias nodded slowly. "We'll help them build one." This wasn't just about carrying a seed anymore. It was about building a bridge between two species. When they returned to Terran space, Command wasn't happy. They sent warnings, threats, legal statements. But something unexpected happened. News of their crossing spread through the colonies like fire. People heard the story. A human crew defied orders to lead an alien civilization through a storm that no one else could cross. For the first time, humans were not just another species in the galaxy. They were a beacon. The Terran Union eventually gave in. Not because they wanted to, but because the people had already chosen. Convoys began to form. The Vraxan fleets followed. Others joined too. The Veil, once feared, became a corridor of hope with humans at the front. One quiet night. Long after the mission ended, Elias stood alone on the deck again. The Queen appeared beside him, her silk robes glowing softly in the starlight. "You changed more than you know," she said. Elias shook his head with a small smile. "I just made a choice." She tilted her head. "A choice can shape stars." They stood in silence, watching the distant galaxies. The storm was still out there, growing. But so was something else, something stronger. Hope.